What's going on, my people? I'm back at you with a video about a topic that I haven't talked about in a while. You guys, if you've been with me for a minute, you know I used to talk about it a little bit, but, and by the way, that's the ABK deal. Man, I grew really tired of it, really, and I got tired of talking about it. It was really like a seesaw, and I just got to a point really where a long time ago, I just kind of felt like I wished Xbox would just walk away from the deal, but I also understood that Phil Spencer didn't want to do the exact same thing. They didn't want to adopt the business model of making a whole bunch of tedious, teeny tiny exclusive deals, you know, having to meet with all these different companies. I understand that that is a harder way of doing things because you have to have so many meetings and you have to meet with so many people. And, you know, a lot of times these people, they want the games to be exclusive. They want the games to be a timed exclusive. And really, what Sony has been doing, the way they've been doing it, it obviously has been effective, but it also seems nerve-wracking. So I understood that Xbox wanted to do it the way they're doing it, which is to just buy a large publishers and just own them outright. That way you don't need to worry about having all these meetings. You don't need to worry about how long a game is going to be on your platform. You own it. You know it's going to be on your platform as long as you want it there. And I also understand that they probably were a little shell-shocked because of the way a lot of people reacted when they locked down Rise of the Tomb Raider as a timed exclusive. I mean, I've covered that in some of my videos in the past, and you know, everybody just really lost their shit, really. I mean, they act like they had done something that was unheard of. I mean, people were acting like Phil Spencer marched up into Square Enix with a military junta squad and just took the game, totally ignoring the fact that it took these two sides to sit down at a table in an office and come to an agreement on this deal. And obviously, they gave Square Enix a huge money bag. So there were two entities involved in making this deal. But that kind of went to the wayside back then. It was just like people just didn't see that or didn't want to talk about that. And so I understand that. But look, we're years away. We're years from that. We're years from that now. So if I'm Xbox, I'm forgetting all about that, especially now that we know what we've always known, but now we really know because of the testimony in court. The things that Sony has been doing for many years now to sabotage Xbox's success. Now, I kind of understand why Sony did it the way they did it. In hindsight, it was a huge mistake. They really should have welcomed Xbox to the industry, but instead they immediately began to attack them. Now, I noticed this many years ago. I also talked about that in another video. I'm not going to, rehash that again. But in hindsight, that was a huge mistake to start attacking them and start trying to put down aggressive moves to try to end Xbox. But now, to their credit, it almost worked. We all know that Phil Spencer was the one that resuscitated Xbox, and they were about to shut down. But Phil Spencer came in, resuscitated the Xbox, and now we're where we are today. And look, that happens all the time. I kind of see what Sony was thinking. They were thinking, look, this is a huge company. Huge companies shut down operations all the time. Let's just go ahead and bury Xbox. And then that way, their cake daddy, Microsoft, will go ahead and just, they'll just cut it. Big companies do it all the time. The one company that's really ruthless about it is Google. Google shuts down business ventures when they find them unprofitable all the time. So I do understand what Sony was obviously thinking, which is, look, we don't have as much money as Microsoft, but we don't need to fight Microsoft. Let's fight Xbox. And I think the thing they were probably thinking was that Microsoft would give up on Xbox, and then the Xbox would just go away. And I think one of the reasons why they wanted them to go away was because if Microsoft ever started seeing Xbox as a business venture that was well worth it, once that happened, the thinking probably was, this company, if they ever think that it's worth investing in it, it'll be unstoppable at some point. So we have to stop it now. We have to kill this baby while it's in the womb. We can't let it get off the ground and start making a lot of money, because when that happens, Microsoft is going to look at that and they're going to say, well, let's just start pouring money into it. So Sony just kind of adopted this strategy of, like I said, kill the baby while it's still in the womb. But again, like I said, in hindsight, that turns out to be an awful idea. I really don't think Sony made a good choice with that strategy, because Sony would have been okay. Sony makes amazing games. Now, they are kind of getting to a point now, because there's been so many years, a lot of people are starting to look at their games like carbon copies of each other. But it looks like they're trying to do things a little differently now, or whatever. They make great games. They are a talent. I just don't really see the gaming industry ever getting to a point where the PlayStation is not going to be a thing. As long as you're putting out a good quality product, and as long as you're making great games, which they were, and as long as you can afford to purchase some exclusive deals, which they were. A lot of people don't want to face it, but actually PlayStation became powerful by scooping up a ton of exclusives, third-party exclusives, especially in Japan. They were really aggressive in Japan, but they were doing it in other places too. I hear these people, they talk about Microsoft and Xbox, and how all they can do is purchase other companies. They can't foster other, studios like Sony. But you know what? The same people that I hear saying that, these people are dishonest, because these people are also educated people about the industry. And I know that they know that is how Sony started. That is how the same thing people are accusing Xbox of doing, Sony pioneered that strategy. Now, as we all know, some very interesting things happened during this court proceeding, and some very pertinent information, a lot of it everybody already knew, came out during the court proceeding, especially when Phil Spencer was testifying. Now, his testimony was very, very interesting. Now, according to Phil's testimony, the reason why they made the whole Bethesda deal was because they had heard that PlayStation was trying to make Starfield a PlayStation exclusive. I think a lot of people already knew this. I think a lot of PlayStation fans knew this. This sort of came out maybe a month or so ago, maybe a little over a month. And I think that's one of the reasons why they have been so adamant about trying to get the game on the PlayStation, to the point where they've been making themselves look like idiots. They've been signing petitions and things of that nature. People have been writing letters to Microsoft, to Phil Spencer, begging on their knees, to the point where even some PlayStation fans were like, "What are you doing? This is embarrassing." Like, they wanted to say, "Hey, get off your knees, fool. You look like an idiot." So they've been doing all these very strange things. And this is why, because this information came out about 2 months ago, and they probably believed it, and therefore felt even more so that they were entitled to the game. Now, one very important moment during this entire hearing actually happened on the first day, within the first hour of the hearing. The Microsoft attorneys revealed an email authored by Jim Ryan that was sent to Chris Daring, who is the former CEO of Computer Entertainment. In that email, he tells Chris that he's not worried about any sort of exclusivity or any sort of exclusive deals as a result of the ABK deal. That is not his concern. So this thing that he's been saying publicly, he's telling Chris that actually he's not worried about it at all. So basically what it is, it's just a talking point. It's just a talking point that's being used to try to make it seem like Sony would be adversely crushed if the ABK deal went through, and also to make it seem like they're afraid that Microsoft will do something that he in reality feels that they're not going to do, and probably because he knows that would be a horrible business decision. It would be like just throwing money away. Like, there's money there that's being made, that would be equivalent to you buying a rental unit and that has a tenant in it, and the guy or woman or whoever they're selling you the rental unit tells you, "Hey, I've had this renter in there for many years. They're very good. They take care of my property. They're very clean. They don't cause any trouble. They pay rent a week early. They gave me a $10,000 deposit, and everything is all good." And then you just go in there and just, for no reason, just kick the tenant out. So that would be the equivalent of that. In other words, it would be stupid to take COD off of PlayStation. Both of these companies are competitors, but they're not stupid. Now, they will try to steal market share from each other. One of them apparently at all cost. One of the things that this court case has revealed, which, many of us already knew it, and we were willing to admit it and talk about it, and some of us didn't want to admit it, but Sony has been trying to destroy Xbox from day one. Now, don't get it twisted. Xbox would also like to destroy PlayStation, especially right about now, but they weren't willing to do anything to do it. I think the major difference here is that Xbox wasn't trying to end PlayStation, but all companies want to steal market share. They want to have more and own more market share than their competitors. That's every company, Xbox included. You know, some people complain about the way Microsoft is going about it. They spend a lot of money at one time, whereas PlayStation doesn't do that. Well, you know, here's a news flash. PlayStation doesn't do that because PlayStation doesn't have as much money as Microsoft. If you look at everything that PlayStation has been doing to try to end Xbox, if they had the money to do what Microsoft is doing, funding Xbox like that with all that money, they would do it. But right now they're just dealing, you know, with what they got. They're working with what they have. You know, it's like a football team. You know, they want to win the game just like the team that has the quarterback with the strong arm and the blazing fast receivers who can run patterns very well. But all they have is a strong line. They have a quarterback who's good at handing the ball off and a running back who can blast through the line and work his way downfield. They have a quarterback who may not be able to throw an accurate pass for 20 or 30, 35 yards. So they have a different set of tools to work with, but the end goal is the same. They want to be victorious. They want to get in that end zone more than the other team. It may take longer for them to get there, but at the end of the game, they want to have been in that end zone more than the guys on the other side. So PlayStation doesn't have the tools to outspin Microsoft, but PlayStation does have the tools to methodically try to defeat and end Microsoft. And that is exactly what they have been trying to do. And what we have to realize is that it is well known that almost happened. And now we not only can read the articles about it, we not only can look at the documentaries about it, we can now read the testimony, Phil Spencer's testimony in court. Phil Spencer had a great day in court. So one of the FTC's attorneys was questioning Phil Spencer. And by this time, I think Phil had already committed in court to keeping Call of Duty on the PlayStation. And basically, he was smart enough to say, hey, you know, we need them to play ball. You know, we need them to allow us to do it. But other than that, if it's up to us at Xbox, Call of Duty will always come to PlayStation as a quality product. Now, he committed to that. But one of the FTC's attorneys tried to get him to commit even further to bringing Call of Duty to the PlayStation cloud service. And when the attorney put that question before Phil Spencer, the judge jumped in, and it quotes here, "I don't think that's it. I'm going to cut the questioning off there." That's what the judge did. Now, apparently she cut off the FTC's attorney without Microsoft's attorney even objecting, which is highly unusual. The judge just cut the FTC's attorney off. Again, Microsoft's attorney was silent. They did not object. So that doesn't look good for the FTC. In fact, it's rather embarrassing. In fact, according to the Verge article here, in response to the judge cutting off the FTC's attorney during their questioning of Phil Spencer, there was an audible oof from a few members of the audience watching on. So the courtroom, people in the courtroom, after she cut off the attorney, I guess there was like this gasp from the audience. So yeah, that's rather embarrassing. So along with the judge, apparently Phil Spencer was also getting a little agitated by the FTC's lawyers with their idiotic questions. Now that's how it's being described to me. I wasn't there, but a lot of people are saying that some of the questions they were asking just didn't make any sense. Now, according to Tom Warren, he says here, Spencer is teaching the FTC how questions work. You can tell Xbox chief Phil Spencer is frustrated by the FTC's questions here. He remains calm, but he shoots back to illustrate his knowledge of financials and acquisitions. Now you have a $70 billion upfront payment to Activision, right? Asked the FTC's lawyer. Spencer responds, no, when you acquire something, it's not a payment. It's like buying a house. You're buying an asset that has value, so it's really a transfer of cash into an asset called Activision that you believe retains value that you acquired. So to try to characterize the 70 billion as somehow spent is incorrect. Financially, it's really moving 70 billion in cash into an asset, which is a game publisher. That to us is actually worth more than 70 billion, so it's not spent. So basically what Phil Spencer is doing here is that he's breaking down the difference between a payment and an investment. Now, the attorney for the FTC probably already knew this, but they probably were kind of hoping that Spencer wouldn't be able to articulate it on the stand. Now, the FTC, moronically, also went with this narrative trying to claim that Nintendo isn't a part of the gaming industry, or they're not a competitor with Xbox or PlayStation, that it's just PlayStation and Xbox. But by the way, the thing with that narrative is, the problem with it is, even if you went with it, if you take Nintendo off of the market share pie chart and you only apply PlayStation and Xbox, it really looks even worse, because the majority of that pie chart would be taken up by PlayStation. But you know, every time I hear this talking point, I think back to when because I did have the pleasure of actually attending E3 some years back. And, you know, I think back on that. Nintendo also had an area, you know, there was PlayStation there was Xbox there, and Nintendo was also there. And Nintendo actually had, if I remember correctly, they had the biggest area, and they also had the most crowded area. And I didn't have a Nintendo, any type of Nintendo console back then, but it drew me in, you know, because I looked over there and I saw everything that was happening over there, and it just drew me in. And I went in, and it was really nice. Their presentation was very nice. They had some very nice things set up where you can play some of their games. And but yeah, the whole point is, though, these three companies were under the same roof. They were in the same building. So to say that these people aren't in the same industry and they don't compete with each other on one level or another is moronic. It's ridiculous. And nobody actually believes that. So if you're somebody going around saying that, like these FTC attorneys, look, let's be honest, you're just lying. And it's such a blatant lie that it's, you know, like some people say it's rude to call people a liar. But come on, man, if you tell an obvious lie, it's not rude to say it's a lie because, well, even you know it's a lie. So I want to point out one more thing. I'm going to put this article in the bottom of the video if anybody is interested in reading it. It is very interesting to me. I know some people have been saying they find this whole thing boring, but I think it's pretty interesting. But another thing that, you know, I've heard a lot of people say that the FTC attorneys seem like they're Sony attorneys and like they're actually trying to protect Sony. And I tell you what, man, when you read this article, it's clear that that is exactly what they're trying to do, which is illegal. I mean, this is very strange. I mean, here it is, you know, and I'm not xenophobic by any means at all whatsoever. You know, I love my people from around the world. But the idea that the U.S. government would be trying to keep two American businesses from completing a business deal to unjustifiably protect a foreign company, which is Sony, because Sony is a Japanese company. I don't care where they move their main office to. Sony is a Japanese company. So the idea that they're trying to basically attack two American companies and dishonestly, go about it in this very dishonest way, to be that committed to it, to keeping two American companies from making a lucrative business deal, again, in order to protect a foreign company, that's just really strange. But here it says, after some back and forth about whether future Activision games will ship on PlayStation, a Microsoft lawyer objected and Judge Corley cuts in. Your point has been made. Move along. So there again, now this time the attorney did object. And she basically, it sounds like that when the Microsoft lawyer objected, like he didn't need to state exactly why he was objecting, because it says here that she cut in. So by the time the word objection came out of his mouth, she just went on and told the FTC lawyer, hey, look, cut it short, man. Your point has been made. Move along. Because she probably sees here what he's trying to do, or what she's trying to do. She's like bargaining for PlayStation. Damn. So now you want Xbox to guarantee that a great number of Activision games just in general is going to come to PlayStation? And, they just seem to be saying, basically they are saying, look, PlayStation can have a lot of exclusives, but you can't. In fact, we want you to take games that you own and guarantee that you're going to put them on the PlayStation. Hey guys, I'm going to drop this article down in the bottom of the video. It's very, very interesting. A lot of information is in there. In fact, there's so much that I'm not going to cover it in this video. No one is. One of the things that came out just as an example of the effect that this proceeding is having on the industry is that we found out something that wasn't intended for us to find out, and that is that Indiana Jones is going to be an Xbox exclusive. So, like I said, article in the bottom of the video. If you've been watching this long, thank you very much for watching. And hey, give the video a like. And also, if you're not subscribed, go ahead and take care of that, guys, and get subscribed so that you can see my videos whenever they come out. And hey, guys, thanks for riding with me. And as usual, stay safe.